Hello and welcome to the Crafty Pints Year in Beer 2025 WA edition. First up, I'm going to be joined by Guy Southern and Jono Outred, two of the writers who've been covering the WA beer scene for us for a number of years. They've cast their eyes over the year in beer in Western Australia, talking about some of the trends, the highlights as they've seen it. After that, we're going to cross to Hamish and Mel, the founders of Rocky Ridge Brewing. I don't think anyone will deny they've had a pretty incredible year across the country. So we have a chat to them about their highlights, their hopes and dreams for the future. And after that, we'll be chatting to Chris Bowser. He's part of the team behind Bar Pop, which runs a number of major events around Perth. The one best known to people in the beer industry would be Frothtown. Frothtown celebrated 10 years this year. It was another fantastic event. I was lucky enough to be over there. So he has a chat about, I guess, the growth of Frothtown, the health of the event space, and their future plans as well. So enjoy the show. We're back with Guy and Jono after the break. Cheers. Looking for the perfect Christmas present for the beer lover in your life? Why not give the gift that keeps on giving all year round with a Crafty Cabal membership? Just $99 a year gets you access to thousands of dollars worth of exclusive beery benefits all across the country. There's hundreds of deals on offer at Australia's best breweries, beer venues and online stores, including 2-for-1 tasting paddles, free schooners with your meal, VIP discounts and much more besides. There's a full calendar of events that take Cabal members behind the scenes of their favourite breweries and inside venues too. What's more, there's plenty of chances to win awesome prizes, including tickets to the very best beer events or cases of the latest beer releases. It's hands down one of the best beer clubs in the country, and it makes for an unforgettable Christmas gift. Check it all out at craftykabal.com. Guy, Jono, welcome to the end of year WA podcast.
Hello, James.
Hey, James. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. So I guess let's keep things nice and simple at the start. How's 2025 been for each of you? I know you've both got multiple fingers in multiple pies in the beer industry. So how's the last 12 months gone?
I think for me, it's been a year of quiet consolidation. I think a lot of the breweries that have been out there for say a decade now that started up in the mid 2000s they've been through their rebrands. They've been through the ups and downs, and if anything, it's been one of a little bit more consistency. Aside from Rocky Ridge, I don't think there's been super bold moves. And I know you'll get to Rocky later, but definitely one of, I don't know, maybe consolidation from my side of things. What do you think, Jono?
It's definitely been a big year in beer, I think, but in maybe a different way to previous years. It's been kind of chaotic, but I think there's been a maturing in the industry. For me personally, I've been getting really stuck into the industry. I've just wrapped up a role in sales and marketing and have now shifted into a role with membership engagement with the Independent Brewers Association, and feel like I've just shifted my focus a little bit to more the advocacy side of things, getting involved with WABA and the Southwest Brewers Alliance. The industry it feels tumultuous at the moment, but there's also, I think, a lot of green shoots and a lot of positive things happening, especially here in the Southwest.
Interesting to hear you sort of use the phrase, tumultuous. Can you sort of expand upon that at all?
Yeah, I think not necessarily in a negative way. There's just been a lot of moves. There's been a lot of things happening. I think about the fact that Ferrell's back. Like that feels like a big thing going on in the industry. We're seeing brewers move from, Charlotte, for example, going over to Ferrell from Beer Farm. That feels like a big move, and there's just lots of things happening that maybe from a consumer perspective people aren't really noticing, but when you're looking in from the background, there's a lot happening. Like I say, Rocky Ridge is expanding exponentially. Places are closing, but at the same time, again, from my seat with the IBA, I'm seeing also lots of openings and hearing about lots of little regional breweries that I didn't even know existed. So it just feels like it's just a constant barrage of things happening in WA, which, like I say, feels chaotic and tumultuous, but there's definitely positives to it as well.
I think I see that Ferrell thing a little different in that they made the announcement maybe 18 months ago, and they really took their time with that. They could have come out and they could have rushed a Tusk release out, or they could have, made big announcements, but they really went to ground. So while it might seem like, at least from an outsider's point of view, there's been a lot happening in the last, say, 3 or 4 months, they've really played the long game. And I think that's what I get to around this kind of maturing in the market, and John, you referenced that, is that it's we're looking for a more sustainable win. So while there might be um, outsiders might look at these moves and say, "Hey, there's been a big change," I think a lot of it is considered change. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah, I know you made a
Yeah,
point about that. I
absolutely.
think when they sort of announced the rebrand, and when I came down to Perth to speak to Charlotte, that it had been a year in the making. Before they
Mm.
actually put the new beers out and the new look or what have you. It seems to be accelerating since then in terms of new beers coming. But I think even from over this side of the country, it's definitely felt like they've been very welcome, sort of back into the fold. It's a good thing for WA beer to have
Definitely.
Feral, back doing what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen some of the smaller to medium breweries maybe have less presence, and independent retail needs independent breweries. We need
Mhm.
Feral to be firing. We need all these breweries to be firing. So we've got an industry which is dynamic because
Mhm.
we've still got the pressures of the big chains, and we've still got the pressures of um, you know the Lions and all that kind of thing dominating tap contracts over here. We've talked about that nearly every year.
Mhm.
So a slight segue to in that along that line is I've really enjoyed the venues are firing up this year. There's been a lot
Mhm.
more activation in venues. I feel like independent WA beer venues have really found their feet this year. There's been great activations from FAT. They had a 3 day wrestling festival with 600 or 700 guests and top tier wrestlers there. Um, we've got Boundary Island, FAT, Beer Farm, and more winning food and beverage tourism awards. And
Mhm.
I really enjoyed that theme. That if you're a WA consumer, and you look at 65 or 70 venues which are owned by a duopoly essentially, those chefs and those hospitality operators that want to have a red hot go are now looking at breweries as a really good option,
Mhm.
and they're creating interesting menus and interesting spaces, and that whole thing is coming together in a really, I don't know, fun way, and it's collecting accolades outside of the beer realm. I think it's cool.
Yeah. And so, do you think that will have a sort of hopefully have a roll-on effect into other parts of hospitality, or do you reckon it's just its own little world, the sort of the beer, the brewery brew pub kind of thing?
I think it's showcasing West Australian beer outside of the WA beer bubble, where you've already
Mhm.
got advocates that come to your venue and they're excited about new releases, that kind of thing. If you're at the AHA awards, like hospitality awards, or you're at a tourism award, and you're engaged with like that crowd, that's cool. That welcomes more people into the beer realm.
Mhm. Yeah. And what about down in the
Yeah.
southwest, John? Are you also neck of the woods? I know we sort of chatted about June opening down on in the right in the south coast. Like I guess the southwest has been blessed
Mm.
with an incredible number of amazing brewery venues and good bars and bottle shops for almost before many other regions of Australia did. But has anyone really sort of been making noises this year?
Yeah, look, there's been plenty going on. I think we're seeing a similar trend to last year. We had the same conversation about WA Southwest breweries are really starting to own that region. Seeing
Mhm.
less Perth-based and Eastern States breweries sort of in bottle shops and on taps, and I think that's obviously, sadly, because of logistical limitations. But it's provided an opportunity for the Southwest Brewers to really own that space. And mirroring what Guy has said, there is a real push and focus on venues now, which is really amazing to see. And what I'm seeing in the Southwest is all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, this has been something that's happened for years, but it just really seems to have kicked up a notch. Is local breweries partnering with local venues and independent bottle shops to sell beer in more interesting ways. And that
Mhm.
includes like collaborations. I think off the top of my head, Beer Farm, Rocky Ridge, Eagle Bay, Margaret River Brewing Co., Shelter all released beers this year that were sort of in conjunction with a venue in the southwest.
Mhm.
Bungalow Social, Servo Tap House, the Poor House. These are all venues that have a really strong craft beer model. And there's a lot of these venues that don't even have your token Swan Draft or Guinness Tap. They have just said
Mhm.
no to Lion and CUB 100%, despite the pressures from those guys. And they're just fully committed to supporting. the local breweries. And there's events and there's dinners and tap takeovers and tastings and all sorts of things happening where both of those industries, hospitality and beer, are just working together. And I think it's just a natural evolution of, sort of what Guy was talking about, is breweries are realizing they need to be more than just craft breweries. They need to be hospitality venues. They need to do events, and they're really leaning into that and doing some really exciting, interesting things. They're looking into those other awards like the AHAs and tapping into that and dominating them. And I just think it speaks volumes of the quality of what a craft breweries can offer.
I think along the same lines, Jono, you and I both put on our notes about the rise of local produce as well. So it extends to that. Like we're seeing Malacup malt, we're seeing Mugger River hops, and a lot of the stuff around Loam, 30 minutes south of Narrogin. Brewers getting invested in stuff that's grown in WA in the local postcode, and I think that's exciting as well, because that tells a really good story about place that feeds into venues where you've got, say Rocky Ridge using Treaton Farm beef from down the road. So this narrative is very cool.
Mm-hmm. You're making it sound a bit like the glory days of 2013 earlier, John. I was getting a little, tingles on the back of my neck there. No, it's just good to hear. I think it's probably something we'll hear reflected through a lot of these chats this year about I guess the move towards local has been happening for a while, but certainly local produce, like local using stuff grown, within your state or whatever is happening so much more, I think. So taking a step to one side, any sort of real sort of standout beers this year that have had people talking? I guess there's so many new beers tend to hit the market every year these days. It can be hard to really stand out. But has there been much, I guess, other than the return of Tusk, perhaps, that has really got people talking?
Yeah, I was going to say, like you say, there's just so many beers, and living in the southwest, it's kind of it's a blessing and a curse, because you don't get all those crazy beers that you see up in Perth. So as Guy can attest to, every single time I make my way up to Perth, I'm in Copper and Oak having a pretty thorough browse and asking him for what's the best of the best. Let me just take home 10 beers and really get my head around them. So, when you ask me
later.
what are the highlights,
yes,
yeah. When you ask me what the highlights are, I always just try and keep it southwest focused. And I was really lucky this year to ride up a lot of great beers from the southwest. The Beer Farm Imperial Milk Stout comes to mind, just absolutely stunning. Imperial Stout.
gorgeous beer.
Eagle Bay Yuzu IPL seemed to be a really popular beer for a lot of drinkers. I was lucky to be with Eagle Bay when we were selling that beer, and at Frothtown there was a lot of people who were sort of scratching their head about that. But once they tasted it, agreed it was just a fantastic beer. So full testament
I was
to
one of
the
them.
Eagle Bay Brewers. And then Margaret River Brewing Co. just seems to keep pushing out the hits. Their new Drift XBA is awesome. Double River Dog was fantastic. Boston down in Denmark, always doing fantastic stuff. But their Peach Squeeze New England IPA was also a fantastic beer. And then I also really loved Rocky Ridge's HBA series, which there was 5 or 6 different beers with single hops, each great in their own way.
Yeah, no, it was really good to have that. I guess the single hop series isn't something we've seen for a fair while in the local beer scene, if anywhere at all. And I think doing that real stripped back, pretty lean base beer allowed you kind of like these hops, most of which pretty well, but to actually experience how different they were was a pretty cool experience. Did either of you sort of tuck into many of Artisan's 10th anniversary big bangers?
I had all of them. And I think one of my write-ups earlier in the year covered 6 in 6 weeks. And I said to the sales guy, Josh, I said, this is supposed to be spanned over a whole year, not like ramming 10% beers into 6 weeks. This is not good for anyone.
No, you're a trooper, Guy. We appreciate the hits you take for the industry.
It's hard out here.
Someone's got to do it.
I would say out of that whole 10, the one I enjoyed the most was the quad, Tabernac. I mean, Artisan have been doing quads for many, many, many years, award-winning quads at that. So that was a highlight. Just to echo Jono's points, Eagle Bay's Yuzu double IPL, firm favourite for me, firm favourite in the shop.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really, really enjoyed Other Side's Indie Anthem. For a lot of what's going on in the beer world, it does feel like there's a safeness kind of around limited releases, and for someone to bring out a plus 11% triple West Coast, it just felt naughty. Like it just, I made space for it. Like turn the phone off, just actually put a record on and sit with this beer. It was a very, very well balanced and very cool beer. Tusk, like you say, Found's Deja Vu was very good. Yeah, there's a few highlights. I'm probably
Did you drink anything under 11%, Guy?
Actually, yeah, I did. Actually, I'm really enjoying, and it's probably just a tease for what's to come. I'm really enjoying what Joel Nash is doing at Ripple, particularly in his saturation series, where he's kind of showcasing a single hop, or maybe there's one just tucked underneath. The batch 2 focused on that new Dulcita hop, which I've really enjoyed. You get a lot of stone fruit, sort of charred pineapple vibe. Yeah, that was great.
And just for people who don't know Joel, so Joel's, worked at a number of breweries. He was, I guess, in 8 Brewers when they launched for a while.
Yep.
Now started a little brew pub down, just south of Frio, is that right? But he's been around the beer industry for a long while, popular character in the industry.
Yeah, he basically hadn't worked for nearly 4 years. He's been working on this. So,
yeah.
And another shout out to also was Carla at Seasonal had a seriously amazing dry nitro Irish stout that was just absolutely gorgeous, faultless. So
yeah,
there's.
And what about sort of trends? You mentioned the double IPL there. We've always seen sort of WA as the home of IPL in Australia. You were talking when we were sort of preparing for this chat before? You were saying maybe being usurped by West Coast Pilsner, even though there's common ground there.
Yeah, there is common ground. I just feel like IPA, putting my retailer's hat on, IPA has got enough, it's got something about it that people understand. IPL, people don't understand. Unless you're Beer Farm with an icon. Even Eagle Bay had an IPL for a while. That changed to West Coast Pilsner. I feel as though somehow West Coast Pilsner just makes more sense to the consumer. You've already got a lot coming at you with a lot of colourful packaging and new hops and conversation. If you can't kind of make that decision in the first 2 seconds of looking at something, whether you're at the bar or you're at the fridge doors, it's just too hard. It's just another bunch of letters on a can. So I feel like West Coast Pilsner kind of says enough that people know it's a lager and it's maybe got a bit more character. So I think people have just sort of shifted that space. Sort of say the same thing about Cali IPA. I wondered if that style would go the way of the brute IPA and that kind of space, but it seems to be lingering. It's just maybe got its own vibe in that. If you say Cali IPA, it kind of feels it's got a postcode that you can relate to. Does that make sense?
90210.
Yeah. And Rocky Ridge put one of those into Core Range, I guess, which sort of solidified that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, I mean, before we sort of look ahead to 2026, and anything else in 2025 that, has been notable from either of your perspectives?
Yeah, I mean, for me in the Southwest, I suppose mirroring, again, some guys' comments there, I feel like the craft lager has cooled off slightly. I think a lot of venues who are looking to do craft beer and represent that are opting for a big named lager still over craft, and then they're looking at those, local breweries for the more interesting things to have on tap. And I think that might be playing into the sort of hoppy lager space, is realizing that those craft drinkers still want a flavorful beer. And so I think that hoppy lager category, whether it's Cali's, West Coast, what have you, still has some legs. In the Southwest, I think we're seeing a lot of single hop beers and a lot of celebration of local producers. So again, Malacut Malt and Mortlock Malt, the hop growers down here, we've got an industry that's very small, but is just charging along, growing and doing really exciting stuff. Carradale hops, Southwest hops, Margaret River hops is really, really awesome to see. And they are doing a really great job of marketing themselves to local breweries. And then this might just be a Southwest thing, but a lot of fruited beers this year, which was really interesting. Boston did quite a few. Rocky Ridge did quite a few. Margaret River Brewing Co. just did their Prancing Pony Berry Sour. The Yuzu IPL from Eagle Bay, as well as Grapefruit Haze. there just seemed to be quite a few beers with a little bit of fruit in there, which I thought was a really interesting thing. I definitely have seen that grow, which is
In
maybe
fairness,
counter to
Jono,
the sour movement.
is there a beer style where you couldn't say Rocky Ridge did a few of them?
No, I think this year they did about 200 limited beers. So yeah, you're probably right.
Fair
I,
enough. And what about you, Guy? Anything else that
I
we
would,
haven't touched upon already?
just echoing Jono's thoughts around the craft lager, for want of a better term, whether be it all those styles. But I would say something else that I've noticed from the shop's point of view that's maybe not working so well is some of the kind of people have reached back into the brewery logbooks and looked for classic styles to bring back in package, like an ESB or a Hefeweizen or something like that. And in retail land, that's not landing as well as most would hope. If you got a brewery venue, that makes total sense to me. You got someone to talk about it over the bar and get people excited about it, and maybe pair it with some food. But I'm looking at beers coming out, particularly ESBs and Hefeweizens, and I wonder if that's a missed opportunity that the breweries had to make a better connection with customers coming into a bottle shop, for example. So
Yeah.
just maybe a question mark in that space.
A bit of advice from the man selling beer for all these people.
And look, it's not. Look, we've got 24 beer doors here, right?
Yeah.
So we're up for any style. But I think if you put that beer out, then you actually have to put a bit of effort behind it. It's not just set and release like any other hazy IPA, and people are excited about it. You actually have to build some momentum behind it.
Yeah. And isn't it quite amazing that is still the case with hazy IPA? Like after all these years, I don't want to harp on about the early days, but this will never take off. But it does seem to be. I even had a mate who's got a brewery over here in Melbourne going, what are people excited about these days? I'm like, just put a fucking hazy IPA out, mate. Like, it's just like they just go.
James, look at this, right? So we did one of the first articles on hazy IPAs in like 2017, right?
Yeah.
And less than a decade later, Margaret River Beer Co. wins champion beer at the Perth Royal Beer Awards for In the Pines. People forget how small that space of time has been, that these beers have just become so pervasive. I should actually shout out Wedgetail also for winning champion beer at the ABAs. That was quite a huge nod, despite how stunned they might have been.
Yeah, for sure. No, that was quite. I love it when you get the unexpected winners and that was the sort of definition of the stun mullet. I think when up to correct the trophy.
Yeah.
And we should mention was there someone else from WA that picked up a trophy that night, Guy? I can't think.
Yeah, I'm not certain. Yeah, yes, James. Yes.
So anyway, congratulations again on that. Well, and so looking forward to 2026. Anything that is happening, anything you'd like to see happening, whether in your region, WA generally, or just for craft beer as a whole. And I suppose, Jono, this might be something for you with your IBA hat on as well.
Yeah, I honestly haven't really thought too far ahead, just the way this year's going. Along with the beer stuff in the background, I've got a 4-month-old and a few other things going on, so I haven't really thought about what the next year looks like. But I think definitely, I think we're going to continue to see this maturing for breweries. I think we're going to continue to see breweries at every level upping their game with their hospitality offerings and what they're giving the consumer. I think the days of sitting in a dusty old warehouse on milk crates eating loaded fries is kind of done. And if that's what you're coming to the table with, I think you're going to struggle. So I think everyone knows that. I don't think anyone's sitting there going, what a great model this is going to be. We're going to absolutely kill it. I think everyone is now well and truly across what it takes to be a successful brewery venue. And I just think we're just going to see that just grow exponentially. The quality, all those little startups and people that have got that idea ticking along in the back of their mind going, wouldn't it be cool to start a brewery? I think those people are still there, but they know what they got to do. And so I'm really excited to see what people come up with.
Yeah, it's interesting when it's done well. I know, I spent some time in WA, mostly up north earlier in the year. Visited the two breweries in Exmouth while I was up there. Said Exmouth this time, not Exmouth. Got it drilled in there now. But then called in to see Pete Firth, one of the founders of Froth, at Froth North Beach on the way back through. and you can sit inside that venue. I know it's not one of the brewery venues; it's just a venue, but it's got so much character to it. So many beers on offer, nice food. Like you feel like you're in a place with a vibe. Then you step in, and obviously, you're looking out over the ocean. Then you step around the corner, and it's actually attached to the most sort of white, bland, suburban shopping centre possible. But once you walk in those doors, you feel like you're in froth. Like you could almost feel like you are back up in Exmouth or whatever. And, it just shows, when done well, how the sort of experiences I think that, craft brewers are actually offering above and beyond that you're going to find in pretty much any other venue, I'd suggest.
I would say that about Rocky and Duncraig. Like you go there, and it feels, and I put that in the write up for that. Like that's a neighborhood joint that every neighborhood wants. It just feels like it's set in the place so well. But the offering's great. It feels very just so welcoming. You know what I mean? And it's directly next to a school. It's got an established postcode around it, and the 4 or 5 times I've been there, there's school mums catching up. It's almost like the public house. That which was the one of those third places for the neighbourhood, not, as Jono points out, a shed in an industrial state with milk crates. If I look forward to next year, the things I'm kind of excited about are some new openings. You've got Area 51 in Joondalup that'll open their tap room next year. White Lakes in Baldivis, I just cannot wait for this venue to be open. They wanted to open now.
I was going to say, they probably can't wait either. Didn't they start on that in about 1826?
I think so. They are spending an absolute ton of money there, and they've realised that they only get one shot to do it. So it will open. I'm pretty excited about that. And 100 Day Pilsner is one of my most consumed beers, so can't wait to have that on tap. Hog Culture, little unit up in the Perth Hills, up in Carmel. They will have a little brewery open. And Eclipse, I was talking to the guys up in Northam. They'll finally have their brewery open up in Northern, which is about an hour and a half east of Perth, but it's surrounded by the wheat belt. So that'll be another offering where literally you'll be able to have a beer made from grain within 20 minutes of where they're situated. So I'm excited about that stuff. So there's still, as Jono says, there's plenty of green shoots still happening in WA. I'm excited.
Excellent. No, that's great. I really appreciate that. Once again, WA contributors kicking goals with a lovely, thorough look back on the year and look ahead. So, enjoy the end of the year. Hope you both get some time off over Christmas and New Year. Here's to a huge year for WA beer in 2026. Cheers.
Cheers, James. Thank you. See you, Jono.
Thanks, James. See you, mate.
It's time for Have You Done a Rallings, proudly presented by the legends at Rallings Labels. For the very best digitally printed cans and cartons with no MOQ, visit rallingsprint.com.au and chat to Brad and Paul today.
Hey listeners, Will and James back with our Have You Done a Rallings campaign. This is where we ask listeners to celebrate the good people in the beer industry, the people who do stuff, of their own volition. They want to help out, whether it's someone working in a bottle shop or bar or brewery, whatever. They just want people who do good in the beer community. And James, this nomination actually comes, the call is coming from inside the house in this instance.
Yeah, well, as we got towards the end of the year, I think we've had so many great nominations from around the beer industry, from, just beer lovers as well as people that work in the industry as well. This one comes from Craig, who does a bit of work with us, works for Black Flag Brewing, does a whole bunch of things for various people sort of inside and on around the beer world. I don't think anyone would question his choice either. It's Stu Whitecross from Voyager Malt. Craig says, I was fortunate to be in a position to see some of the work put in by Stu to develop, promote and deliver the inaugural Grainstock event held in October, and I think he is very deserving of a Rallings nod. At every stage, it was obvious that this was an event born out of Stu's passion for the craft beer industry, and the time and effort put into making it a success far exceeded what might be sensible from a commercial standpoint. Having had a conversation with Stu at an event recently, I would say it made very little sense from a commercial standpoint by the time he totted up all the bills, but certainly it was a roaring success in terms of the impact it had on everyone that was there. Craig goes on to say this sense of doing something for the brewing community, as well as the baking and distilling folks, really carried through to the event, creating a very collaborative atmosphere from day one. Big hat tip to Stu and his team, and well done on creating an event that rekindled what's special about working in an industry of small artisan producers.
Wonderful, and hopefully you won't mind me saying this, but I was browsing through social media the other day, and I spotted that he managed to get backstage ahead of Tool playing over the weekend. So I'm sure that has made his week, and this will make it even more. That he got to meet Maynard, and now he's done a Rallings.
There you go. Fantastic. And I think, as I've said to Stu and other people a few times in recent months, I think once all is said and done in the craft beer world and maybe distilling world in years to come, when this industry is very well established, I think Stu and what he's done at Voyager with Brad, they'll be seen as the most significant contributors to the industry of this entire era. That's my theory anyway. So congratulations. So that both Stu and the nominator will receive a voucher from Rallings Labels and Packaging, which they can use for whatever they like, perhaps in Stu's case to promote next year's grain stock gathering. So thanks ever so much. If you'd like to get your nominations in, please head to craftypint.com/Rallings.
Hopefully Craig uses his for the Crafty Pint.
He better bloody well do. Yes, and aside from that, get your nominations in. We've got time for one more before the end of the year. But for now, back to the show.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Need something printed but it's only a short run? Talk to Rallings. Whether it's cans, cartons or coasters, Rallings has a solution for you. Visit rallingsprint.com.au today.
Hamish and Mel, welcome to the WA Year in Beer 2025 chat. I think it's fair to say by any measurement that 2025 has been a pretty monumental one for Rocky Ridge. Do you want us to run listeners and viewers through the year for you guys?
I mean, it was a really great year. We're still going. We've still got December left, but it was a pretty big one for us, starting with opening Duncraig at the end of February, and then rolling straight in really to Burswood. And I don't know how many beer releases thrown in the middle of that, Hamish.
Yeah, we'll be somewhere close to 100 by the end of the year again. I'm not sure of the exact number either. We kind of wait until New Year's Eve to release that one.
Yeah. And if you sort of roll back a few years, did you ever envisage that Rocky Ridge would become a multi-venue, multi-brew pub, multi-state operation? Was that always part of the vision?
Yeah, look, it was never really part of the plan. I think I did a podcast with you, or we at least had a call, James, just after COVID. We had Darlene's shutting, and we were pretty negative on hospitality at that point in time. But as times have changed and we've developed and grown as a brand, we've rediscovered a love of good hospitality and the ability that gives us to create authentic experiences and actually connect directly with our customers and our own consumers, because ultimately it's about creating a family. It's about creating a long-term sustainable business, and a big part of that has to be us having a good hospitality arm alongside the wholesale side of the business. So Did we envision it? No. Did we envision brewing 2 million litres of beer a year? No, not at all. But we're here now, and we're kind of just one foot in front of the other and making sure that it keeps coming out to the quality and the standard that we really want it to. It's exciting. It's been a huge year. We're looking forward to a pretty big year next year as well. Some pretty cool plans underway already. Some pretty cool MPDs underway, and another venue on the horizons as well. So it's not going to be a slow year by any means, but I think it'll be slower than this year was.
And when you say another venue, we are talking about Bootleg here. There's not another one.
No. Not at this point. Never say never, but no, at this point there's no plans for anything else. It's we're the Abrupt site, so we're looking forward to rejuvenating and refreshing that and bringing something pretty special to the southwest. We've got some big plans there and some pretty cool ideas as to what we can do. So it's a huge project. Don't get me wrong. There's an awful lot of work to do down there, and it needs a lot of love, but it's also going to be pretty cool to have that family-oriented venue in the southwest to complement the offering we've got at the Tap House in town.
Mm-hmm. And how do you manage it all? Obviously, there's a pretty big team now spread across a number of sites, but how have you managed sort of maintaining constant output of beers, quality, logistics side of things in 2 states, opening venues, the hospitality kind of things? Like, where's the division of labor even between the two of you?
I think the fact that we're on different different calls and different in different cities at the moment, I think just explains how we manage the labour dispersion between us. But it can be challenging, but we've got a really great team. We've got some really amazing people, particularly outsourcing some of the management roles, which we've actively done this year and last year, has really helped take a bit of the pressure off more so Hamish than me, but just allowed us to sort of focus on what we really needed to do, which was kind of working on the business so that we could achieve these things that we've done. But yeah, it's hard. It's a balancing act, and often we're sort of passing ships in the night, but it is what it is while we're expanding.
And in terms of, you mentioned that the one venue for 2026, is that going to be, you're going to pause at 5 for the time being and sort of make all of those work? Or are there other, you mentioned MPD, is there anything sort of teasers you can give us for 2026?
Yeah, look, there's no plans for any more venues next year other than the Willie Abrop site and making everything work really well. We've been doing a pretty big overhaul of our processes and systems in the back end to really streamline the workload for everyone, and that's taken a fair bit of our focus for the last few months. But we've got some cool MPDs in the lower no space, as well as some pretty big and outrageous beers planned, particularly for export market, but really we're just concentrating on the production side of things again and making sure that we keep the quality and consistency up here, and also manage to service the demand that we're creating from the venues as well, because ultimately every time that we expand, it requires a huge amount of time, energy and effort to ensure that the back end keeps up, and also we've got to make sure that we continue to keep sight of our core goals of being environmentally sustainable and not just letting things slip as we go forward. So it's a constant push-pull, I guess, of we want to keep going, but at the same time we've got to make sure that we bring everything along with us. So it's going to be a pretty big year regardless, but no more venues.
I'm going to say that because we've rapidly jumped from venue to venue in the last couple of years with Brunswick and Busselton upgrades, and then onto Duncraig, and then Burswood and Willie Abrop. It's been a whirlwind, but in that we still haven't completely finished some of the venues, and there's always ongoing projects and improvements and things. So hopefully this will be the year that we can kind of consolidate some of those wish lists for each venue that we've been working on and get them really, offering that best experience that we can. So you'll see a lot of upgrades over the venues over the next year and probably 2 years as we can kind of push through on them. But I'm hoping Hamish doesn't say yes to another venue.
And have you had time to sort of pause and sort of look back at 2025? And I guess opening the new venues would have been highlights, but any go that, that was a great moment, or that was a great beer that we put out that stood out from the crowd, or has it just been too much of like my to-do list is just getting no smaller?
Honestly, there's been a few big highlights this year. One of the most notable ones has been getting a wastewater facility up and running out here at the brewery. That's been an ongoing project for a number of years now, and we've finally got it functioning the way that we want it to function, to the point where we're getting clean water out the back end of it. So we're recycling about 70% of the water now, which is pretty cool. So that's been a huge milestone and a huge goal. It's been a long time coming.
One of the events that stood out to me, which I think was really special, was unfortunately one of our team members, Mitch, has been suffering with some health issues, and we organised a fundraiser for him, which was incredible to see all of our team, all of our community, surrounding businesses just get around it. I mean, it was basically a dad bod car wash, which was quite comical in the end of a day, but just to see the neighbourhood and all of the crew around us to rally behind Mitch was really special, and it was one of the highlights of events we've done. And obviously it wasn't for a better cause, that he wasn't sick, but it was nice to be able to work towards that cause, raising some money for him and his family. So that was really special to be able to do that.
Yeah, I love the fact that out of all the stuff you've done in the new venues, all the hundreds of beers that have been out there, we asked for your highlights, and it's so Rocky Ridge. It's something to do with sustainability and something to do with people and community, as opposed to all the stuff that I guess your fans might be attracted to you for. Like, that's what you choose to highlight. I think that says a lot about the business.
Cheers, that's I guess who we are, but we love all the beers, obviously. I mean, I can't pick one of them as a favourite highlight of the year, because they're all awesome. And I mean, the team do a bloody amazing job. It goes, I shouldn't go without saying, and I don't want to be cliche in it, but seeing everyone develop over the last 12 months and take on all the challenges that have been thrown at them has been absolutely amazing. And, you know, there's so many highlights. It's not even funny, and very few lowlights. So it's one of those things where it's been an awesome year, and we're pretty excited for what's coming next.
Yeah. And what about looking at the sort of wider industry, whether in WA or on a national scale? You know, do you have any sort of hopes, dreams, or fears for the future?
Hopes, dreams, I think, is a real hard one to answer because our industry is so collaborative and just a really nice industry to be in that it's hard to kind of need to hope for something better. I think it's just, you know, we've all kind of got to do the rising tides, rising ships and help everyone else out at the moment. Like, you know, it's happening at the moment. I just hope that does continue on because it's pretty tough out there for some of us. Fears, most of mine are going to come back to sustainability. I mean, we're driven by a supply chain that relies entirely on the climate. So, you know, that's probably my biggest fear in our industry is what's going to happen if we do bugger up the climate too much as a humanity and we don't end up with decent grain and decent hops and decent ingredients for our beers. So that's probably my biggest fear moving forward, but that's probably a long-term fear. So I guess if we can share some of our learnings in the sustainability world with some other people who are willing to hear it and wanting to do it, that's kind of what I'd love to do.
Mm-hmm. There certainly seems to be a growing interest, I think, about, you know, to the grain stock event, that so much of that was about that side of the, you know, agriculture and how that ties into the industry. So, and you guys obviously been making a lot of noise and not just noise, but I guess doing a lot to push that side of things forward in WA with, you know, working with the local growers as well.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting 12 months, I think, for the industry. There's a lot of meaningful conversations now, and we're actually starting to get traction on things like tax reform, which are very important for us overall, I believe. And that's not just from a beer producer, that's from all artisanal producers, whether we're beer, wine, spirits. We're all in the same boat at the moment, and it's desperately needed to, I think, secure all of our futures. But ultimately, my biggest hope for the year is that we continue the positive notes that 2025 is ending on. There's a lot of positivity in the beer community that I'm seeing and feeling, and I want to see that continue to grow and to flourish because ultimately, you know, there's a whole new generation of drinkers who are coming in and seeing how amazing craft beer is, or good local beer is for that matter, and who need to be brought on a journey. So it's about us really concentrating on the journey that we went through as young drinkers and as young adults, being brought into amazing quality products. I'd really like to see us all focusing on that and focusing on the positive energy that brings, because it's just so much fun when you get to see someone's face the first time that they try fruited sour and they go, holy shit, this is beer, like this is amazing. That's the moment that I want to see more of, and those moments all add up to everyone having a smile and enjoying themselves.
Just don't give them that chilly barrel-aged beer too early in their journey. That might send them the other way.
Very true, very true. Got to be selective. We'll stick with the coffee maple stouts and the beautiful fruit sours, eh?
Yeah, I think so. No, that's great. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know you've always got a million things on. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the 2025 and look forward to catching up with you guys in the new year.
Bloody oath, mate. Look forward to a beer.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.
Chris, thanks for joining us on the show. How you going?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Yeah, things are good over in the West.
Yeah, and it looks like you're middle of yet another event. Do you want to tell us where you are at the minute?
I am, yep, currently on site at our, I guess, contemporary music festival event venue called Ice Cream Factory, which is started as a summer venue, and it's now, I guess the iterations have evolved to an always-on live music precinct.
Yeah. And in terms of sort of stepping back a bit from that, so Bar Pop, which I guess, you know, I guess the main reason we're chatting is through Frothtown, your main sort of, I guess, craft beer event. However, you know, that's just one part of the bigger Bar Pop empire. Do you want us a bit of a potted history of Bar Pop and yours and Gemma's involvement there?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we started in 2013, really as music festival caterers or large event caterers. So big, long white marquees with hundreds of staff cracking as many RTD cans as you possibly can at very big music festivals. And we pretty much just evolved from there and added, I guess, started from an operational background and then added promoting our own events, starting really small with Perth Craft Beer Festival in 2014. I think we started that one. Now evolving that into what is now Frothtown.
Yeah. And Frothtown started at Ice Cream Factory, is that right? I know it's been at the showgrounds for a while now.
Yeah, so Frothtown actually started as Perth Craft Beer Festival in a little place called the Urban Orchard, which is like a public open space in the city. CBD. So we started it, super small. I think our event capacity was like 500 people, and we did 6 or 7 sessions over one weekend with a heap of different breweries. And we started it there, and then we moved it into Claremont Showgrounds, and then we actually moved it into our current venue, Ice Cream Factory, for a couple of years, and now we've been at the Showgrounds for 4 or 5 years, which seems to be a good home for it. It's got a nice scale about it, easy to get to, easy to get around. So yeah.
And what was it like making it to 10 years? Because, the event space, whether it's beer or otherwise, is pretty challenging. So 10 years feels like a real sort of doff of the cap.
Yeah, it's nice to get through 10 years. I think, I guess all we can say is that we're just hypercritical on ourselves, and and we've just tried to keep getting better and better each year, which I think now it very much feels like it's in a really good place at the moment. Being 10 years old, I don't feel, I guess you never really know, but it doesn't feel like it's rounded its curve of customer appetite. So I think, we'll just hopefully keep it alive for a few more.
Yeah, and what do you think it is? You've got, obviously there's a lot going on, but it feels like the brewers are all happy to be there. They don't feel they're just at a music festival, doing brews, yet there is so much other stuff going on. Is that something you've changed and evolved over time, or have you sort of always had a pretty clear idea from your wider events experience what's going to work?
No, absolutely, it's definitely evolved, and it's kind of like this holy trinity of I guess keeping 3 parties happy. One is us, 2 is the vendors, and 3 is the customer. And that's obviously not in order of importance, but there's just 3, 3 key stakeholders, I guess, that all have to get something out of it. It's just that holy trinity of keeping everyone happy. And, if the customer's not happy and seeing value, then they won't come back. Or if the vendor's not seeing value in some way, then they're not going to come back. And if we don't make money, then we can't continue to do it. So it's really important that all 3 get what they need out of that weekend.
And looking back, any highlights, whether at Frothtown itself or any other highlights from 2025?
2025 just felt so easy, and like everything fell into place. All the activations were fantastic. The brewers put in so much effort, vendors rather. It's not they're not all brewers, but the vendors put in heaps of effort to make their stall look beautiful and attract the customers. And actually the customers are just great. They're all fans of the festival. They come, like they save up, they're ready to spend money. They're all in a great mood. So I think the 2025 highlight is just like some of the parts,
Yeah, nice. I'm sure there wouldn't be too many people out there in beer or hospo or event space where you say how like 2025 and they go, it was just so easy. So congratulations on reaching that point.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, hopefully, we can just keep improving it whilst also making it easy.
Yeah. And looking ahead, what are the plans, whether from a bar pop or a Frothtown perspective? What are you looking at in 2026 and beyond?
I think, we discuss things every year in great detail about, how we can improve and get better. And I think what's really important for us is we don't change the fabric of it while still improving. So I guess like when you look at our scale and capacity at the moment, in order to increase that, there needs to be major change. And I think that comes with great risk. I guess you alienate your good customers and your vendors. So it's now just at a point where it's small tweaks and interest with activation rather than major change. And one thing which has always been on the radar and something we've always considered is maybe giving the Frothtown experience to more people, which to me means outside of Perth. But again, there's risk associated with that, not only financial risk, but brand risk. And, I guess sometimes the ambition to grow something can be detrimental.
And outside of Perth in WA or further afield potentially?
I think potentially further afield, but it's one of those things that we always talk about, and we look at the potential iterations and look at another city, and I think it's very much going back to square one, which we really try not to underestimate the value of being 10 years old and having all those learnings. And being a known and an understood brand is very, very important. So we're careful not to bite off more than we can chew. So potentially, I guess the other iteration that we can do is look to use the other space that we have, which is Ice Cream Factory, and look to do maybe a smaller, more boutique iteration of Frothtown in that space. That can continue to service that market, a bit more all year round. Maybe 2 or 3 other iterations, just in a smaller form, focusing on different things.
Yeah, no, well, there's certainly been a few other, bigger festivals fall by the wayside, not just in the beer space. So if you've got a vibrant brand with a great reputation like you guys do, but, partly I think whenever Will and I come over, we come back over this way going, everyone, you've got to go to bloody Frothtown, is awesome. Then, why not try and capitalize on it in the right way? And I guess aside from that, looking ahead, is if there's anything, any hopes or dreams, anything you'd love to see, whether it's in the beer or the major event space that you think would benefit either yourselves or the industry as a whole, if you had a magic wand you could wave?
I mean, I would just love to keep increasing the amount of people that go get out and about and do fun things. I'm very much a believer in the rising tide floats the boats, and I think the more amazing always on venues that we have, whether they're brewers or just supporters of brewers, just continually fighting the fight against Netflix, really, rather than other venues or other events and festivals. I think the more we have, if the ecosystem can survive, I think just getting people out and about is better.
Yeah. No, sounds great. Awesome. No, well, hopefully that does come true for you and for everyone else around the country, especially. WA has been in a bit of a happier bubble than most places. So it'd be nice if you can send some of the vibes over east as well. Great to chat. And if I don't see you before, we'll see you at Frothtown 2026.
Amazing. Thanks, James.
All right. Cheers, Chris. See you, mate.
Do you love craft beer but your wallet doesn't? Then the best investment you can make is a Crafty Cabal membership. For just $99 a year, you'll get access to the best value beer club in Australia with literally hundreds of special offers, deals and discounts at breweries and bars across the country. We're talking free tasting paddles, 2-for-1 pints, beer and meal deals and much more. You'll also get regular invitations to exclusive events hosted by the Crafty crew, taking you behind the scenes of Australia's best breweries. And not to mention, there are loads of opportunities to win great prizes like festival and event tickets, beer packs and more. Do your beer budget a favour and sign up for the Crafty Cabal, Australia's best beer club. Check it out at craftycabal.com. The Crafty Pint podcast is produced and edited by Matt Hoffman. You can get all your beer-related news and reviews on the Crafty Pint website, craftypint.com, and can stay up to date on future podcast episodes via our socials.
We wouldn't be able to produce the podcast or the website, events or festivals we run without the support of the beer industry, whether that's suppliers, bars, breweries or bottle shops. If you'd like to support the show or partner with the Crafty Pint in other ways, please reach out to Craig via the details in the show notes.
And if you're a beer lover who'd like to support what we do, you can join our exclusive club for beer lovers, the Crafty Cabal. Visit craftycabal.com for more.
And until next time, drink good beer.